Renee Miles grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, where church potlucks and high school football games stitched weeks together, and elders kept warnings the way folks kept mason jars, lined up, labeled, ready. Her grandmother, Big Etta, liked to remind her, "Baby, anybody can make a promise sound like Sunday. Ask, and what they're doing on Monday." Renee learned to do Monday well. She folded her life with a neatness that didn't brag. Bills paid on time, pantry stocked, car inspected before the light came on. By 28, she was an RN on the Med-Surg floor at Baptist, working nights because the money stretched further. She rented a tidy 2-bedroom on a quiet street where the streetlights worked, and so did the neighbors. She dated a little, nothing that lasted. Stability felt better than roses. Still, she wanted partnership, somebody who could hold the other end of the week without dropping it. She met Marcus outside a grocery store on a spring Saturday when the air smelled like cut grass and charcoal. A pop-up vendor had set up a folding table with business cards and a vinyl banner that read Bennett and Sons Renovations. There was no and Sons, Marcus admitted that with a grin, but there was a clipboard and a cooler of sodas he offered to people like they were old friends. He was handsome in a practical way, forearms brown and corded from work, a beard he kept lined, boots scuffed honest. He caught Renee struggling with a flat of water and stepped in like it had been a cue. "Let me get that," he said. "Don't want you straining your back for $2 of H2O. I'm Marcus." "Renee," she said, watching him lift like it was nothing. She wasn't foolish. Kindness at a table with business cards was also marketing. But his eyes met hers and stayed, steady, not slick. "You a nurse?" he asked, nodding at her scrubs. Hum. "That's the realest work there is. I fix houses. You fix people. You beat me." He made her laugh. He offered a free estimate card for a kitchen backsplash he claimed he could do in 2 days. She wasn't in the market, but she took the card. "You local?" she asked. "Born on Fortification Street," he said. "Got out of trouble and into trades. If you need anything, door that sticks, sink that talks back, call. I can tune a house like a piano." Big Etta's proverb hummed in her head. Sunday talk, Monday proof. Renee nodded and kept moving. He texted a week later in a tone that did not presume. "Hey, Ms. Nurse. Marcus from the Water Rescue. No pressure on the backsplash. Just saying hi. Hope your shift was kind." She replied because it was kind. He suggested coffee because everyone knows that's the least dangerous yes. They met at Cups on State Street and sat by the window. He told short stories that didn't make him the hero, about a busted pipe in a 100-year-old crawl space, about a pastor who cried when Marcus fixed a flood-ruined fellowship hall for almost free. Renee weighed what she was hearing against the weight of the man in front of her. He asked about the floor. Why Med-Surg, not ICU? She said ICU was too much cliff for her. She liked the steady urgency of people trying to be themselves again. He listened like a person who measures twice. Warnings came, as they do, polite and specific. Renee's mama, Janice, who had worked 25 years at the DMV and could read a man's patience in the way he filled out a form, said, "Contractors are like Saturday sales. Some are real nice until Monday. Watch his follow-through." Her friend Lacey from church said, "Girl, a man with tools got fans. You ready for the groupies? They be needing shelves and promises." Even Big Etta, who liked how Marcus carried groceries without making a moment out of it, raised an eyebrow when he said, "My crew," and then later admitted the crew was sometimes his cousin and a neighbor with a reliable truck. Renee heard all that and kept dating him anyway because warnings aren't prophecies, they're guardrails. Marcus kept showing up right. He replaced her wobbling ceiling fan without charging, refused the sweet tea afterward because he had 2 more stops and didn't want to lull. He hammered a loose fence picket and whistled off-key while he worked. He didn't posture, he did. He prayed over the rib tips at her mama's house without performing. At church, he sang baritone like a floor, not a solo. People started saying y'all when they meant Renee and Marcus, and it didn't make her skin itch. The first red flag came wrapped in good news. "Baby," he said one evening, eyes bright, boots still dusty. I got a contract with a flipper out in South Jackson. Whole house, demo, rewire, drywall, paint. Real money if we finish by June. What's we? She asked, smiling. Me plus whoever I can pull. But I'm going to get a licensed electrician for the wire. You know I don't play with God's fire. This could put me over. Shop money. He drew a shape on the table with his finger. Future shop, sign in a clean font. A break room where my guys can heat a good plate. Renee believed in work that built something. She also believed in calendars and contracts. Get it in writing, she said. Get deposits in the bank, not the glove box. He grinned. You my CFO. He kissed her knuckles. Renee ignored the tiny alarm that wondered why he needed a CFO this early. Work bloomed, then swarmed. He woke at 6, kissed her temple. Smelled like sawdust by 9. Texted receipts at noon. Came home after dark with paint on his eyelashes like a man who'd been kissed by a wall. He was tired happy. He was also loose with the details. They want shiplap, he'd say, rolling his eyes. Ain't never lived through paneling. He made her laugh, hugged her long, then crashed. 2 months in, he took money from the Bennett and Sons envelope to front a cousin who'd supplied cabinets late. I'll put it right back Friday, he said. Friday stretched to Monday. Renee did not nag, she noted. She paid the Entergy bill without telling him because she saw it blinking red on the app and had the account password. She left the receipt on the counter like a mirror. He frowned, then hugged her, then fixed a loose drawer without being asked. I'm getting there, he said. This work is spikes. Give me a little runway. They married the following spring in a church, with a tin roof that pinged when rain came. It pinged that day like applause. Renee wore satin that didn't try too hard. Marcus put on a navy suit that made his mama cry. Lacey gave a toast that made everyone laugh and then think, may your estimates be honest and your change orders few. Big Etta squeezed Renee's hand and whispered, Monday, baby. Renee squeezed back, yes, ma'am. They rented a small house with a porch in Belhaven, the kind where you wave politely at grad students and older couples on evening walks. Renee hung a wreath. Marcus set up a tool bench in the shed with terrifying joy. The first months of marriage were soft and workmanlike. Grocery runs, wind-down TV, a rhythm that felt like a secret keep you could choose every day. Then the work changed its face. The flipper wanted faster. The electrician's cousin got sick, so the electrician disappeared for a week. The drywall guy knew a guy who didn't. Marcus started running crews in 3 places with 2 hands. He kept saying yes to the next job because turning down work felt like sin after years of begging it to come. He missed 2 dinners, then 3, then every Tuesday. He texted often, called less, slept hard. Renee's shifts moved to days. Their time overlapped like 2 hands waving from separate porches. Red flags ripened quietly. A permit that was in process turned out not to have been filed. A check from a client bounced, and Marcus swallowed the cost because he good for it, just in a cash flow bind. A woman named Shanice left a review on his page that read, Marcus got it done, with a smiley face. Then she messaged him privately at 11:58 p.m. You around? My door sticks. The next morning the message had disappeared. Renee had set no rules about phones because she did not want to be that person. She breathed, remembered she was not in competition with woodwork, and measured Monday. Let's do a budget, she said one Sunday. Joint account for bills, separate accounts for our play. Quarterly savings for taxes. Quarterly, he repeated, like a word he'd heard once in a seminar. Yes, he meant it. He bought QuickBooks and watched 3 YouTube videos with a guy named Todd explaining invoices. He created a spreadsheet with tabs like a person ready to repent. For 2 months it worked. He handed her receipts and didn't roll his eyes. She paid the guys on Fridays and made sure no envelope had a Friday next OU. They slept better. For a time. Temptations in trades aren't always women. They are shortcuts. A cash job with no paper that promises full payment on completion. A friend of a friend who needs just a little help with a rental, and then a little more, and then he's in your voicemail twice a day. Marcus said yes to too many. He started juggling. He was good at it until he wasn't. He also started letting fans of his work feel like family. Folks brought beer to job sites and stayed. A real estate agent with a big laugh and bigger hair networked with him at a bar in Fondren and tagged him in a story where his grin looked wider than it felt at home. Renee saw it on her lunch break, felt her stomach tight, set the phone face down, then picked it up and texted, "Thumbs up. What time you home?" He wrote back late, "Change order on Mason St. Big one. Sorry, love." She stared at love as if it were an item line one could audit. One night, Renee stayed late charting, came home at 10:30 to quiet house and a kitchen light on. A receipt lay under a magnet on the fridge. 2 dinners at a mid-price restaurant, 2 cocktails, date stamped for 8:07 p.m. That was the same time he'd texted change order. She put the receipt in her spiral notebook next to the Entergy account number and the grocery list. She did not rehearse a fight. She ironed her scrubs, made her lunch, and went to bed. In the morning, she placed the spiral on the table and opened it to a fresh page. "We need Monday," she said, calm as a floor. Marcus stood in the kitchen, hair rough, socks unmatched. He saw the receipt, then her face, and chose honesty so fast it hurt. That was with Alicia, the realtor. She introduced me to a client. I figured. Renee held up a hand. "I don't need to know her order. I need to know yours." She tapped the page with a pen. "What are we doing? Work with me here. Are you networking? Or are you dating for deposits?" He winced. "I didn't." "I know," she said. "I'm not a fool, Marcus. But also, a wife shouldn't have to do math to find her peace." He sat. He took the pen. He wrote dates. He named jobs out loud. Owning them took away some of their ability to run wild in his head. He wrote cash jobs and then put a line through it. He wrote taxes and underlined it twice. He said the part he hadn't wanted to say. "Sometimes I like the way folks look at me when I save their day more than I like the way I look at myself when I get home late." "Okay," she said. "That's a blueprint we can work with. Do you want to be a man who's adored for a fix or respected for a schedule?" He laughed, a tired sound. "Respected for a schedule." Then softer, "I need help being him." She helped. For 3 months they met every Thursday after dinner with coffee like a tiny finance committee. She kept QuickBooks honest. He kept his calendar visible. They said no to 2 jobs he would have scrambled to take last year and discovered that sometimes saying no is the path to yes that doesn't break you. And then everything crashed on a Tuesday in August. He'd taken a bathroom remodel for a teacher in Clinton, a woman who'd saved for 2 years and finally won a tile that wouldn't crack under a prayer. He demoed on Monday, discovered rot in the joists on Tuesday, called Renee at 3 p.m. with the tone she recognized from hospital codes. "Baby," he said, "the floor's a memory. It's going to be triple. I messed up. I didn't crawl the full space before quoting." "Did you tell her?" Renee asked. "I left her a voicemail." "Call her again," she said. "Then text. Then email. Then drive. Don't let her come home to a hole without the truth." He did. She cried. He reduced his profit to almost nothing. He put money from the shop fund toward the joists. He came home hollow and grateful she didn't say "I told you." She didn't. She put a plate in front of him and then the spiral after he ate. "Estimate better," she said quietly. "Measure twice like you do with wood. Don't bid to win. Bid to be able to go home." He nodded. He meant it. For a while. They had a son in November. Caleb arrived with fists clenched like a boxer and a yawn like a soft rain. Marcus fell apart in the delivery room in a way Renee had never seen. Fell like a roof you'd warned about. He sobbed until the nurse smiled and said, "You can cry and hold at the same time," and placed Caleb into his arms. He swore vows to 2 people that day. Renee and the child, to be home for dinner unless there was a fire, and to never choose applause over their names. 3 months later, he took a line of credit. He did not tell Renee. He told himself he didn't tell her because she was healing and tired and money talk felt like a burden. He told himself he would surprise her with a new truck, a second crew, an extra bathroom in the house. He told himself the line of credit was disciplined debt. Then the supplier offered a discount for paying cash. Then his cousin needed a float. Then an inspector failed a rough-in and the do-over ate a week. He moved money like a man, trying to juggle in a storm. Renee found the statement on a Saturday when she went to grab a warranty from their file, and the envelope fell out because it was heavy with paper. Available credit, $21,000. Current balance, $18,640. She sat on the floor and let the quiet of the house ask the question for her. She waited until Monday because they had promised not to have big fights on weekends. Some wisdom they'd borrowed from their pastor and actually honored. At the table, spiral open, she slid the statement across like a dignified doorbell. "Explain," she said. He did. He said all the truths and the excuses. He said for us and for the business, and I was going to tell you, and I didn't want to worry you. He said, "I'm sorry," with a face that looked like he'd been caught, then like he'd been relieved to be caught. "I didn't want to worry you" is a phrase people use when they've already made the worry, she said. "This isn't about money. It's about Monday. It's about what you do when a thing gets hard. Do you bring it in the house, or do you try to fix it so you can walk in here and feel like a hero?" His shoulders dropped. He knew. She packed a bag that night for her and Caleb and drove to Big Edda's. "I ain't leaving you," she told him at the door, voice steady. "I'm leaving your habits. When you walk different, come get me." At Big Edda's, the air smelled like starch and old hymns. Caleb slept in the crib that had seen 3 generations. Renee cried in the bathroom with the fan on so it would sound like the shower. She went to work on Tuesday and charted and passed meds and changed dressings and didn't tell her patient stories her own life was begging to be. At lunch, Lacey slid in beside her in the break room like a coin into a slot and said, "I love you." That's all. Sometimes people don't need advice. They need company. Marcus called and texted. His messages were small. "I messed up. I'm at the bank. I'm at counseling. I paid the electrician first. I told Miss Holloway I underbid, and I made it right." He sent pictures of his whiteboard with NO written across every job that smelled like cash today, problem tomorrow. He stopped responding to clients after 9 p.m. He gave the real estate agent's number to another contractor. He went to a men's group at church and said, "I like being admired," out loud into a circle where nobody clapped and everyone nodded. He showed up to pick up Caleb on his days, on time, smelling like sawdust and humility. Renee set her own terms. She saw a therapist who didn't let her turn every answer into a plan. She wrote in the spiral, but not just numbers now, sentences that sounded like a person learning their own edges. "I am not the bank. I am not the applause. I am his partner, or I am not. I cannot be his parole officer." She slept at Big Edda's, even on nights when the house felt too full of her own thoughts, because being held by wallpaper you grew up with sometimes steadies you better than being alone in a nice rental. 3 months later, at their Thursday finance committee in neutral territory, a booth at a diner with a good pie, he slid over a folder. Inside, bank statements with balances going down in the right direction. A list of current jobs, each with permits filed, deposit amounts, realistic timelines. A letter from the bank closing the line of credit and converting the remaining balance to a fixed monthly note. "It'll hurt for 6 months," he said, "but it won't kill us. I put my truck up as additional collateral so we don't touch the house." "You did that without asking me," she said, eyebrow up. He winced. "Ask the bank. I am asking you to look at it with me now." She did. Monday. It looked like repentance, not panic. "I want to come home," she said a week after, in the church parking lot where they'd learned to say hard things without raising their voices. 90 days. Conditions posted on the fridge. Non-negotiables. They wrote them together that night. No secret debt. Any job over $5,000 gets a contract she can read. Every Thursday is money night. Sundays are for home. Phones on the counter after 9. If either says, "This feels like before," they stop and talk, even if it costs a client a day. They lived it. Marcus turned down 3 opportunities that would have wrecked them. He lost 2 clients who wanted magic. He gained 4 who wanted a man who showed up when he said. He finished Ms. Holloway's bathroom, and she cried into her hand towel and wrote a review that said, "Marcus tells the truth and then does it." He started a habit of sending Renee a picture at lunch of whatever he was actually doing. The underside of a sink with the caption "Pray for my back," a receipt for 2 baits, a bucket of joint compound with "romance" written as the text. She texted back pictures of a stethoscope and a cup of terrible coffee, and wrote me too. They still fought. About time. About the way he sometimes slid back into charm when she needed a plan. About how she sometimes sounded like a supervisor when he needed a wife. They learned to stop mid-fight and name the ghost. This is not about the sink. This is about trust. Mid-naming often softened it. A year turned slow and then fast. Caleb walked. He held a tape measure like a sword. He learned to say truck and then daddy home, and then, to Renee's complicated joy, mommy rest, because she had learned to lie down without shame. Marcus opened a small shop, not the glossy sign on a boulevard, not yet, but a lease bay in a strip of concrete with a roll-up door and a window big enough for a plant. He put Bennett Renovations in vinyl letters. He applied himself by watching a video 3 times. He hired 1 man full-time, not a cousin, a veteran named Curtis who liked a quiet radio and lunch at 11:30 on the dot. He paid payroll on Fridays before he paid himself, because he remembered how it felt to be told Monday next. On opening day, Big Etta wore a hat and cut a ribbon with the pastor's scissors. Janice brought deviled eggs to a shop because that's who she was. Lacey took photos like a proud aunt. Renee stood with Caleb balanced on her hip and felt relief that didn't need a party to exist. She still checked the bank. She still kept the spiral. She also put it down some evenings and sat on the porch while Marion Williams sang from the speaker, and Marcus lay on the floor inside letting Caleb park toy trucks on his back. Peace, she learned, is not silence. It's the sound of a house where the bills are paid and no one needs to hide a receipt. There were setbacks. A storm ripped shingles off 3 roofs, and every client thought they were first. A subcontractor ghosted. A guy on Facebook accused Marcus of leaving them on read because Marcus didn't answer a DM at midnight. Old Marcus would have chased the complaint like dignity was a coupon you had to clip right now. New Marcus posted his hours plainly and went to bed. They made another baby, a girl named Naomi, who arrived during a week when 3 inspections passed on the first try, and Renee got day shift permanently. Marcus cried, quieter this time, not because he felt less, but because the feeling fit in a bigger room. He held Naomi and whispered, "I'll be home," and Renee didn't flinch at the vow because there was a calendar beside the crib with free squares. Years rounded them out. The shop moved to a better corner. Marcus learned to bid with dignity and to be okay losing to lowballers. He mentored a teenager from church who loved to sand because it made rough things smooth. He took Saturdays afternoon for family and said no to folks who wanted Sunday estimates. Renee became charge nurse 2 nights a week and trained new grads in the kind of charting that tells a future nurse everything they need. Caleb started kindergarten and corrected everyone's measuring with comic seriousness. Naomi hummed like she was born with a hymn in her throat. On a fall Sunday, the pastor preached from a verse about building on rock. "It ain't just storms that knock you down," he said. "It's the slow neglect. It's the pretty shortcut. It's the I'll tell them later. Build now." The congregation hummed like a low motor. After service, in the democracy of the parking lot, folks talked about greens and football and roofing tar. Marcus laced his fingers with Renee's. "You good?" he asked. "I am," she said. "Mostly because we do Mondays." He smiled. "Estimate, 1 good Monday at a time." She laughed. "Approved." That evening, when the kids were down and the dishes were done, they sat at the table with a spiral and 2 mugs. Renee flipped to a page she'd started months ago and added a line. Warnings are scaffolds. Use them to build. Don't live on them forever. Love is not a discount. Budgets are prayers with numbers. If a receipt makes you hide the purchase was too expensive. Shine is Saturday. Maintenance is Monday. Choose Monday. Marcus read over her shoulder and nodded, not performative. I'll take out the trash, he said and did. On a Tuesday, an old temptation called, a developer with fast money, shaky permits. We move quick energy. The estimate would have been a number Marcus could brag about. He brought the paper home anyway, set it on the table and said, I want to say no. Help me say it. You just did, Renee said. Pleased not with the no itself, but with the ask. They high-fived like teammates. He emailed the developer a polite refusal with 2 referrals to folks who liked that kind of chaos. He slept well. Their life did not become a commercial. The washer still broke at the worst moment. Kids still got fevers at 2 a.m. A client still tried to negotiate after signing. They still had weeks when nothing lined up and they had to forgive each other on the spot for being human. But the boomerang that had hit them, broken trust, secret debt, pride, came back into Marcus's hand as a tool. He used it to hang cabinets straight. He used it to measure twice. He used it to knock old habits into junk. One day, years in, Caleb came home from a friend's house and said, their daddy yelled real loud when the sink leaked. Marcus looked at his son and said, sometimes folks yell when they're scared. A leak ain't a monster. It's a message. He went under their own sink and tightened the loose trap, just because it felt good to fix something small before it became big. Renee watched from the doorway and felt the kind of joy that doesn't need an audience. On their 7th anniversary, they didn't go out. They put the kids to bed, fried catfish in a cast-iron skillet, and ate at the table with the good plates anyway. Marcus slid an envelope across the table. Inside, a simple card with a note. I admire your Mondays. Renee slid one back. I admire your estimates with truth in the math. They laughed at how corny they were, then got quiet the way people do when the joke has been a shield and they decide they don't need it. Thank you for coming to get me, he said, eyes on the spiral she'd closed. I didn't, she said, smiling. You came and got yourself. I just opened the door. Later, when the house settled and the night leaned in, they stood on the porch. The neighborhood breathed. Somewhere a car tried to start, coughed, then caught. Marcus squeezed Renee's hand. You think the kids will remember the fights? He asked. They'll remember the fixes, she said. They'll remember you coming home. He nodded, pulled her closer, and kissed her forehead like a seal. And in the quiet that followed, the promises did not sound like Sunday. They sounded like Monday, work boots by the door, a calendar with squares filled honestly, a house that held. Renee thought of Big Etta, long gone now, and whispered into the kind dark, I chose Monday, Grandma. The night did not clap. It did not need to. The porch light threw a small circle of amber across the steps, and inside on the table, a spiral notebook lay open to a page that was not done, because neither were they. Thanks for watching.